What did that 7-year-old girl in the neon orange jumper see in the worn patch of carpet that made her lock her voice away forever? 8 sessions she stared at that single threadbare spot, while I watched her parents sink deeper into that exhausted silence that comes from hoping too long for something that never arrives. Now I've Olivia's file in my hands, a box I've never opened. And the question still burns, because I'm terrified that the answer is not what happened to Emma, but what I would have done if I had known. The child was 7 when Olivia first saw her. Name was Emma. She had been referred by the school because she wouldn't speak. Not couldn't. Wouldn't. There's a difference, Olivia said, and most people get it wrong. The school psychologist had written a report that used words like selective mutism and oppositional behavior and recommended a structured therapeutic environment. The parents had agreed because they didn't know what else to do. The father was a manager at a hardware store in Castle Hill. The mother worked reception at a dental clinic. They were tired people. You could see it in the way they sat in Olivia's waiting room. Not angry tired. The other kind. The kind where you stop hoping because hoping costs energy you don't have. Emma wore a neon orange jumper the first time. Electric cobalt sneakers. She sat in the chair across from Olivia and looked at the floor. Not around the room. Not at the window. At the floor. Specifically at a spot where the carpet had worn thin. She stared at that spot for 47 minutes. Olivia timed it. She said she learned something in those 47 minutes. She learned that Emma was not afraid of her. She was deciding something. And whatever she was deciding, it had nothing to do with Olivia's questions. The file notes from that first session are clinical. I saw them once. Olivia let me read them, I think because she wanted someone to know what she had seen. They say things like, child presented as guarded. Minimal eye contact. No verbal response to direct questioning. No response to play therapy prompts. Observation suggests high-level cognitive processing of environment. Recommend continued assessment. It reads like a person trying to write their way out of what they already know. What that stuck with me. Olivia said that after the session, Emma's mother apologized in the hallway. She said, I'm sorry, she's not usually like this. And Emma, who was standing right there, didn't react. She didn't correct her mother. She didn't argue. She just stood there with her neon orange sleeves pulled over her hands and waited. Olivia said that's when she first thought something was different. Because a child who's selectively mute doesn't usually let someone else speak for them without any signal. But Emma didn't signal. She just stood there. Like she had already decided that her mother's version of the story wasn't worth fighting about. The second session Emma spoke. Olivia was asking about school, and Emma said, out of nowhere, there's a donkey near my house. Olivia said she almost didn't react because she didn't want to break whatever had opened. She just said, oh. And Emma said, he doesn't like anyone. But he lets me sit with him. That was the first mention. Olivia wrote it down but didn't think much of it. Children say strange things. A donkey near the house could mean anything. A farm. A neighbor's property. A story she made up. But Emma kept coming back to it. Over the next few weeks, the donkey became the only thing she would talk about. Not school. Not friends. Not her parents. The donkey. His name was Jack. At least that's what Emma called him. She said he was old and gray and had a scar on his left ear where something had bitten him once. She said he lived in a field behind an empty house on Old Northern Road. She said no one owned him. Quietly, she said he was just there, and no one wanted him, and he didn't want anyone either. But he let her sit with him. She said she would bring him apples and he would take them from her hand. Not aggressively. Gently. Like he knew she was small and didn't want to scare her. Olivia said she noticed something in the way Emma described this. The language changed. When Emma talked about school or home, her sentences were short. Functional. When she talked about the donkey, she used adjectives. She described things. The way the light hit his coat at golden hour. The sound of his breath in the cool air. The feel of his flank under her small hand. Olivia said she had never heard Emma use that many words about anything. Here's where everything changes, and most people miss it. They think the story is about a child who loves an animal. That's what everyone assumed. The school thought it was a coping mechanism. The parents thought it was a phase. But Olivia said she watched Emma's face when she talked about that donkey, and it wasn't love. Not exactly. It was recognition. Emma had found something that didn't ask her to be different. That donkey was stubborn and mistrustful and slow to warm, and no one had given up on him because no one had tried in the first place. Emma knew what that felt like. She wasn't saving him. She was seeing him. And he was seeing her back. What Olivia saw in Emma's eyes when she spoke of that donkey was not love, it was the look of someone who had finally found another creature that understood what it meant to be held in place by something stronger than itself. Olivia documented this. She wrote careful notes about the therapeutic value of the relationship. She even considered doing an equine therapy referral, but there was something about it that didn't fit. Equine therapy is structured. This wasn't. This was just a child sitting in a field with an animal that didn't want anything from her. Olivia said she started to wonder if she was learning more from Emma than Emma was learning from her. The father found out about the donkey in the 4th week. Emma's mother had known but hadn't said anything because she thought it was harmless. The father didn't think it was harmless. He came to a session alone, without Emma, and told Olivia that the donkey was dangerous. He said it was a wild animal. He then said Emma could get hurt. He said he was going to call the council. Olivia said she listened and nodded and asked him what he was afraid of. He said he wasn't afraid. He said he was being responsible. Olivia said she watched his hands while he talked. They were clenched. Have you ever been told someone was being responsible, but their clenched hands told you the truth, and were they right? She said she saw he wasn't angry about the donkey. He was angry that his daughter had found something she didn't need him for. The real mistake here is thinking the father was the villain. He wasn't. He was a man who worked 60 hours a week and came home to a daughter who wouldn't talk to him. Slowly, he had tried everything. Specialists. Tutors. Rewards. Punishments. Nothing worked. And then some abandoned donkey in a field did what he couldn't. Of course he was angry. Olivia said she understood that. She said she tried to explain that the donkey wasn't competing with him, but he couldn't hear it. Because it wasn't about the donkey. It was about the fact that his daughter had given something to a scarred old animal that she had never given to him. Olivia said she wrote a letter to the council. Not officially. She wrote it as a private citizen, not as Emma's therapist. She said she explained that the donkey was not a threat, that it was providing a therapeutic benefit to a child, that removing it would cause harm. She never sent it. She then kept it in the file. She said she didn't send it because she knew it wouldn't matter. The council would do whatever the parents asked. And the father had already made up his mind. I think about that unsent letter sometimes. Olivia said it was 3 pages. She crafted it carefully. She used clinical language. She cited studies. She framed it as a mental health intervention. And then she put it in the drawer and never did anything with it. She said she told herself it was because she was respecting the family's boundaries. But she knew the real reason. She knew that if she sent it and it didn't work, she would have to sit with the fact that she had tried everything and it still wasn't enough. Emma stopped coming to sessions after the 6th week. The father called and said they were pursuing other options. He was polite. Honestly, professional. He said thank you for your time. Olivia said she sat in her office after the call and looked at the file. 23 pages of notes. Assessment tools. Progress markers. Goals and objectives. And one unsent letter. She said she thought about Emma sitting in that field with Jack, and she thought about what would happen when the council came. She said she knew it would happen. Not if. When. She was right. 2 weeks later, Emma's mother called. Not the father. The mother. She said the council had come and taken the donkey. She said Emma had watched from the fence. She said Emma didn't cry. Quietly, she just stood there. Like she had already known it would happen. Like she had been waiting for it. The mother said Emma hadn't spoken since. Not a word. Not to anyone. Olivia said she asked if she could come see Emma. The mother said yes. She went to their house in Castle Hill. It was a modest house. Neat lawn. A swing set in the backyard that looked like no one used it. Emma was in her room. She was sitting on the floor with her back against the bed. She was wearing the neon orange jumper. She didn't look up when Olivia came in. Olivia said she sat down on the floor next to her. Not across from her. Next to her. She said they sat like that for a long time. Maybe 20 minutes. Maybe longer. She said she didn't say anything because she didn't have words. She had 23 pages of clinical notes and none of them told her what to say to a 7-year-old who had just learned that the one thing that understood her could be taken away by people who didn't understand anything. After a while, Emma said something. She didn't look at Olivia when she said it. She kept looking at the wall. She said, he didn't fight them. He just let them take him. I thought he would fight. But he didn't. Olivia said she didn't know what to say to that. So she just said, maybe he didn't want you to see him fight. Emma turned and looked at her. Olivia said it was the first time Emma had looked at her directly in all the weeks they had worked together. Emma said, he was protecting me. And Olivia said, yes. I think he was. But what Emma said next made Olivia realize the father's protection wasn't from something outside their home, it was from something inside it. Emma started crying then. Not loud crying. Do you think Olivia was right to confirm that the father's protection was from something inside the home, or should she have remained neutral? The kind where you don't make a sound, you just shake and the tears come and you can't stop them. Olivia said she put her arm around her, and Emma leaned into her. And they sat on the floor of that bedroom with the orange walls and the unmade bed and the drawings of a gray donkey taped to the wall. Olivia said she didn't go back to her office for 3 days. She stayed home. She didn't call anyone. She just sat in her living room and thought about Emma and about Jack and about the letter she never sent. She then said she realized that she had spent her entire career believing that understanding something was the same as doing something. And it wasn't. She had understood exactly what was happening. She had documented it. She had analyzed it. She had written a letter she never sent. She had done everything except the one thing that would have mattered. What strikes me at this point is that Olivia didn't tell me this as a confession. She told it like she was still trying to figure out what it meant. She said she kept the file because she needed to remember that she had seen it clearly. That she wasn't wrong. That she had known. She said she didn't know if that made it better or worse. I asked her what she thought happened to Jack. She said she didn't know. She said she called the council anonymously a few weeks later and was told the donkey had been relocated to a sanctuary. She said she wanted to believe that. She then said she needed to believe that. But she also said she never checked. She said she was afraid to check. Because if she checked and it wasn't true, then she would have to sit with that too. Emma's mother called Olivia one more time. About a month after the council took Jack. She said Emma had started talking again. Not much. A few words here and there. She said Emma had asked if animals go to heaven. The mother said she didn't know what to say. Olivia said she didn't know either. But she said she told the mother to tell Emma that some animals don't need to go to heaven because they already gave someone a piece of it on earth. The mother said Emma had smiled at that. First time in weeks. Olivia said she never saw Emma again after that. She said she thought about referring her to another therapist, but something stopped her. She said she realized that Emma had already had the most important therapy she was going to get. It wasn't in an office with a trained professional. It was in a field with an old gray donkey who didn't want anything from her except to let her stay. The file is still in a box in Olivia's closet. She told me she takes it out sometimes. Not to read it. Just to hold it. She said the paper is starting to yellow, and the ink is fading on some of the pages. She said she likes that. She said it's like the file is doing what she couldn't. It's letting go. She said one more thing. She said that sometimes she drives out to Old Northern Road. Not often. Just when she needs to remember something. She parks near the empty house and walks to the field. She stands where Emma must have stood. She said the field is empty now. The grass is overgrown. The fence is broken in places. She said she doesn't know why she goes. Maybe she's waiting for something. Maybe she already knows what she's waiting for. I asked her if she thought Emma would be okay. She said she didn't know. She said that's the part they don't tell you about being a therapist. You don't get to know. You just get to have been there. The thing that stays with me is the detail about the letter. 3 pages. Never sent. Olivia said she wrote it because she needed to feel like she was doing something. And she didn't send it because she was afraid it wouldn't work. So she did the one thing that guaranteed nothing would change. She said she has thought about that letter every day for 3 years. What would you have done? If you were Olivia, and you had 3 pages that might save something but might also do nothing at all? Would you send it? Or would you keep it in a drawer and try to convince yourself that understanding is enough? I don't know what I would have done. I think about it more than I'd like to admit. The last thing Olivia told me was about the drawings. Emma's mother sent them to her. A whole folder of drawings of Jack. In some of them, he was standing in the field. In others, she was sitting next to him. In one of them, he was looking directly at the person drawing. Olivia said that one was different from the others. She said the eyes were done carefully. Not scribbled. Deliberate. She said she looked at that drawing for a long time, and she realized that Emma had drawn Jack the way she saw him. Not as a stubborn old animal that no one wanted. As something that had been watching her all along. Something that had seen her clearly and had stayed anyway. Olivia said she keeps that drawing in the box too. Not with the file. On top of it. She said she looks at it sometimes when she needs to remember that being seen is not the same as being saved. But it's close. It's very close. Emma's drawing of Jack with those careful eyes, would you have stayed quiet? That feeling of being seen but not quite saved, that's the like button. If you have a box with proof you can't open, subscribe, you're home.